In this video, we're going to talk about credit card payment processing with sbNextStep. I'll be demonstrating how sbNextStep processes credit cards. It's very easy to do. It's a good idea to accept credit cards. Regardless of what you may think, studies have shown that businesses who accept credit cards typically do better. And there's a lot of reasons for this. The average size of an order is up to 3 times larger than cash or check orders. It's fairly typical to see increases of sales by 25%. Customers who pay with credit or debit cards do so because they want to. It helps them manage their cash flow. The days of carrying around pockets of cash or a checkbook are quickly diminishing. Most people don't do that these days. You can also eliminate the problem of bounced checks. You'll have fewer trips to the bank to make deposits. The other thing that is a little less tangible, a little less measurable, is that the image your customers have of your business is better. It's improved. Your business is viewed as more viable and a real business. People who don't take credit cards or micro businesses that don't take credit cards aren't necessarily considered less reputable by any means. That's not the case. However, they're not viewed in quite the same light. They look a little less, I hate to use the word professional, but they look a little less viable to customers. It's not something customers are going to mention to you, but it's something to consider. Micro business owners are most often hesitant to take on credit cards because of the processing fees. However, if you accept credit cards, you make much more money than you're going to pay in fees. Just because the order sizes tend to be larger, it's easier to upsell. Maybe you're a massage therapist and you're thinking, well, I would never upsell because people are just coming to me for a massage. Well, you can increase your average ticket sales by offering products. Emollients and those sort of things. So you can actually upsell. When you have a product that you like, there's nothing wrong with selling that to a customer and making it available to them. If it's something you would buy, then you definitely want your customers to buy it if they could afford it. So if you look at just one increased order size as a result of accepting credit cards, this could easily pay for costs associated with accepting the credit cards. The other thing too, let's go back to that massage scenario. People will tend to use your business more and become more repeat customers when they know they can put it on a credit card or a debit card because it's just less hassle. It makes your services easier to purchase, even if you decide not to go the upsell route. All right, let's take a look at how sbNextStep supports accepting credit card payments. I'm going to click on an appointment here, and I can click on the red cash register, or I can right-click as normal and choose checkout. And keep in mind with this video software, my machine runs very slow, so you'll see a delay somewhat. All right, I'm just going to choose credit card. And instead of choosing finalize order like I would if I weren't accepting credit cards, I'm going to choose authorized card. Again, I apologize for the delay. All right, here is where you would swipe the credit card now. You would use a USB card swiper. They are available on Amazon for as little as $16, I think, and they usually range between average between $15 and say $40 for a credit card swiper. You don't need to do anything real fancy. I don't have a credit card swiper that will allow me to swipe a test account, so I'm going to just manually enter in a test account. The expiration date is just month and year, 2 digits. I'm just going to put in the word test here for the credit card name. Now, I'm not putting in the CVV2 number. If you have it, it's always a good idea to include it. Just look on the back and put in the CVV2 number. That's just the credit card verification number that on American Express, it's on the front of the card, the 4-digit number in the upper right-hand corner. On all other cards, it's on the back. It's the 3-digit number on the back. All right. Notice when I bring up this window, it automatically brings in the gateway username associated with this provider, who is Jill Davis. This is set up in the Setup Tools under the Staff and Schedules tab. It also brings in the order amount, the order number, the order date, what they ordered, and this pre-auth percentage is kind of interesting. It allows you to authorize the card for a percentage over and above this $126.61 to allow for a tip. Now, you don't want to set this too high. If you set it too high, say 200%, and they're using a debit card, they may not have that money in their account. So keep it reasonable. Here we're saying 150% over and above is what it's going to authorize. That does not mean it's going to charge that amount. It's just going to pre-authorize. In other words, it's going to reserve that amount. It's not going to charge them. So if you are the type of business that accepts tips, then you are permitted to use this thing where you can charge for over and above the order amount and add a tip later. If you were going to accept a tip, you would print a tip receipt. Otherwise, if you were the type of business, such as a PC repair business, you would just choose the second button, Print Sale Receipt As Is. If you are not the type of business that accepts tips, you can actually disable this button in the Setup Tools window on the very initial screen, the sbNextStep Configuration tab under Setup Tools. You can disable that Print Tip Receipt. But I'm going to go ahead and do this as though I were doing a tip. So I'll click here. It's authorizing. And you see this order is authorized, not charged, but authorized for up to $189.92. A receipt window will open, and you would print off the receipt and follow the prompts to enter a tip amount. So I'm going to choose OK here. All right, from here, you have the receipt window, and you'll click once to print just a receipt for the customer to sign. Now, if the customer wants a copy, you would print when this came up, you would choose 2 copies instead. But the default is 1. If you forget, you can just hit print again. Printing a final receipt will give an itemized receipt without the tip showing at this point. But there is a final receipt that you'll be able to print later that will show the tip. So you'll notice on a charge receipt, it doesn't actually show the items listed. That's a standard format. The items listed would be on the final receipt. I don't know if you recall, when you go to a restaurant, typically you'll get this receipt printed twice, and then you'll get a receipt that shows all the things you ordered on your bill, and the tip isn't showing on it. So that's really normal. If that's what you want to do, you would print signature receipt twice and print final receipt. A lot of people like saving paper, so they would just print the signature receipt. They'd ask the customer if they want a receipt. If the customer said no, they would just print the signature receipt once for the customer to sign for you to keep for your records. I'm going to assume that I've printed it here, and I'll choose Close. And it brings up the tip window. The only things you really need to pay attention to are transaction ID, make sure it's the one appearing on the receipt, of course, and the tip amount. So enter in whatever the customer has entered onto the receipt and choose Finish Transaction. Now, if you'd made a mistake here, you could click Void Transaction and it would just unauthorize that amount. It would void the whole transaction and the customer would never see that. I'm going to choose Finish Transaction. And the card's been approved. It's approved for $146.61, which is $20 over and above the original order amount of $126.61. You get prompted, do you need to email or print a final receipt? I'll say yes. Again, I apologize for the slight delay here. And you could email the receipt, which is a very nice way of saving paper. And it also is handy for the customer too. They don't have to keep track of it. It's going to be in their email inbox. Or you can print the final receipt a conventional way. And doing that, you notice it shows what they ordered, what their subtotal was, what their tax was, what the tip was, and what the total amount paid and the change was. All right. I'm going to assume I printed that and choose close here. Daily sales action required. Do you wish to save this entry in daily sales? And I'll say yes. And this window would close much quicker than if you were running video software, so I apologize again for the delay. All right, so let's see what happened in daily sales. Here's my daily sales. There's my order for Gary Larson. I can choose to view the transaction. From here, I can reprint a receipt. So if the customer came in and said, I lost my receipt, could you reprint another copy? You can. You could refund the order. Heaven forbid you ever had to do that, but you could if you had to. If it was a multi-line order and you only, maybe this had products on it, for instance, and the customer came in and said, this product sucks, I don't want it. So you could refund just that product by choosing refund this item. I'm not going to do either of those. I'm just going to close this. One of the handiest things about using sbNextStep and credit card processing is that all of your transactions that you'll see listed on your Nelix credit card gateway account, you'll have a web login that'll allow you to look at your individual transactions, are all listed here. So you have an integrated way of tracing a transaction number to a specific appointment day. The credit card information is never stored in our software. It is only passed directly to Nelix Transacts, our gateway provider. The gateway user is stored, so whose account was this used to charge, the payment type, the authorization code, the status of that order. It's always going to be approved. It could be authorized if you hadn't actually finished the order. And then the card name will be stored as well. The reporting that we do with credit cards is no different, really. It's still going to show up on your daily sales reports. So if you go into reports and did a sales detail, you would see the Gary Larson sale here coming through just as normal. All right, that concludes this video, and thank you for your time.